Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to Dude Ranch DIY. My name is Jake, and this morning we are down in the workshop, and we're going to be doing a door gasket seal replacement on the door to the wood stove. So let me flip the camera around and show you what we got going on. So as you can see here, we have the door to our Quadrafire 3100 Millennium series wood stove that you've seen featured in other videos. And some of you might know or remember that I got this stove secondhand. I traded 2 cords of firewood for it with a buddy, and I have not replaced the door gasket on it since, and it looks like that it's been quite a while since anyone has done that. Mostly being the previous owner. I can see air gaps in it when I had it on the stove closed. The gasket is pretty well flattened here, so I got a new kit and we are going to be replacing this here this morning. So this is the kit that I got. My stove requires 3/4 inch rope, and the kit is 84 inches long. It came with the stove gasket cement. I got this on Amazon. I will try to include a link to it in the description, but it has everything that we should need. 84 inches I think is way too much, so we're definitely going to need to be cutting that. And then over here I have pretty much everything else I think we're going to need. A pen to mark the length that we need, some tape to hold it in place, a scraper tool to scrape out the old gasket stuff, and a wire brush to do some final cleanup. So I'm going to start removing the old gasket, and we'll get to work here. Now, one thing I would recommend is using a mask when removing and scraping out the old gasket. There's a lot of creosote in there, and it's a fiberglass rope, so you don't want to be breathing that stuff in. So I'm going to be throwing on the mask, and we're going to scrape this old stuff out. All right, so I'm throwing on my mask here, and let's get to work. Now, the old owner, whoever put in this gasket last, started it on the side. I've always started on the bottom. I don't know if there's any significant benefit to that, but that's where I'm going to be starting my new one. This can be pretty tough to get out, or at least start. And the other thing is I have it supported up here by 2x4s on the corner to keep it more stable and to keep the glass up and off the blanket. You gotta be careful getting this out. There we go. Once you get under it, it should go a little easier. Okay. There's our old gasket. We are going to save this to measure the new one, but you can pull it out, separate it like so. Now I'm going to be using the scraper and just trying to scrape out all this old stuff. So as you can see, I've been scraping out the gasket here, the old cement. There was a lot in here. I think whoever did this gasket last probably put on a bit too much. So I decided to take a sacrificial flathead screwdriver, and I took the angle grinder to it, and I'm not sure if you could tell, but I kind of sharpened it down, and it works a lot better. So that's a little trick, I suppose. That I just picked up that I've actually never done before, because I've never really had, I mean, it's always kind of a pain to scrape this stuff out, but I've never had it be this tacky. It almost looks like they use the high heat silicone, which is what I think this stuff is, instead of the like gasket cement, which comes in this stuff. But such is life. We're going to scrape it out. I've been using the wire brush as well to kind of clean it up. And then I have my shop vac over here to suck up the stuff as we go. So we're almost there. closer shot of where the new gasket rope is going to go. You know, it doesn't have to be perfect. Get as much as you can, you know, any big globs, but all these little, you know, streaks of it, you don't have to go crazy getting it all out. But, you know, as much as you can get within reason of not going totally insane over it. All right, now that we got that done, take off this mask and breathe. Now I'm just gonna use my tape measure to roughly measure the old gasket, just so I have a rough idea, because this new one, or the kit, came with an 84-inch, and that's definitely way too much to do this. So I just want a rough idea as to how long this thing's gonna be. So from one tip to the other, we are at about 55 inches here. Okay, so in the kit, came with Rutland, easy spread 2000 degree stove gasket cement, so that's good. And we got our 3/4 inch by 84 inch gasket rope. So you can see the difference here. These are both 3/4, but this stuff has been smushed for God knows how many years. This stuff is nice and tight, so should fit in nice. Okay, so now we're ready to do the stove gasket cement. Take the top off. We got to cut the end to our desired length here. Now, I'm always a fan of doing a smaller hole. You can always add more. So at a slight angle there, and not too big of a hole. So now that that is cut, we can go in, start applying our bead. So okay, there we go. Now, I like to let that get a little bit tacky, putting the cap back on so it doesn't dry out. And while that's getting tacky, I'm going to just rip off a couple pieces of this tape here to help keep the gasket in place as we put it on. Okay, so got that cut. Now I'm going to cut my first end just so it's a nice clean end here of the rope gasket. Nice sharp knife helps with that. So now I'm going to start at the bottom and just carefully put that in. You really don't have to press too hard. Kind of helpful to have the rope always in front of you to kind of lead where you're putting it in. Just kind of gently place it in that groove and it'll seat pretty well. Just make sure you tuck in the edges a little bit. And each stove is different. You'll kind of feel when it's in there. And then we can cut this. Take off your frayed edges, kind of tuck that in there nice. Just gently press it. Now we can take our tape, which I crinkled up that piece, but again, doesn't need to be anything serious. Corners are always important spots. All right, now that we got this all taped in place, I'm going to bring the door back upstairs and we're going to put it back on the stove to close it using the handle and just ensure a good tight fit. We're going to leave the tape on. We'll take the tape off at the end, and then the tube of gasket cement says to let it air dry with the door open for 1 hour. So we're going to leave it, and then we will come back later today and light the first fire. And it's important when you light the first fire, you don't want it to be super hot. You just want to kind of gradually bring up the heat over the course of time to cure that cement into its final resting place with the gasket. So let's head on upstairs. Okay, so we are back upstairs, and before I took the door off, these are the 2 pins that hold it in place here, and I just used a little punch and a little hammer. So now we're going to put the door back on. There we go. Pins fit in no problem. Now we're going to close it. And that is a nice tight seal, much tighter than it ever was before. So you can see that the gasket's a lot thicker, and we're going to put it in. And now there's some actual resistance there when I latch the handle closed. So the gasket definitely needed to be replaced, so I'm glad we did that. Now, as per the instructions, we're going to open it back up, let it air dry for about an hour, and then later today we can light up that first fire. And like I said, we're going to do it nice and gradually, build a small fire, probably with kindling, maybe 1 log, and just slowly let it build up over the course of a couple hours. So that's that. That is replacing the door gasket. And well, guys, I am coming to you live from my mobile media editing studio, aka the cab of the log truck that I drive here, and I got my computer up on the steering wheel. It is currently my lunch break, and I am editing this video that you are currently watching, and I realized that I forgot to film an ending. So I left off where I was letting the gasket dry for about an hour, and then I said I was going to come back later to light up the first fire. Totally forgot to record it, but I did do just that later that evening. Got a nice fire going, and over the course of about 3 hours, I got it up to about 500 degrees. Gasket was set. Stove was burning much better. It was actually much more controllable burn via the 2 air damper controls on the stove. So I feel like I have a lot more control of it. I was definitely getting a lot of air leakage out of the last old gasket. So now that I have the new one, it worked really well. I hope this was informative to some of you guys. It definitely was a learning experience for me. It was the 3rd time I've done one of these, but I mean, each time you kind of do it a little bit different, each stove and application, but it worked really well. So yeah, I hope this was informative for some of you guys. As always, if you liked the video, give it a big thumbs up. If you haven't done so already, hit that subscribe button down below. I'd really appreciate it. Questions, comments, or concerns, leave it in the comments section below. But for now, I'm Jake. This is Dude Ranch DIY. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you here next time.